Eala had the first set. Then she had a 2-love lead in the third. For a few minutes, Cincinnati looked ready for another upset. But then Amanda Anisimova flipped everything. She won 6 straight games, turned the match cold, and left everyone asking the same question. How did Alex go from controlling the night to watching it disappear that fast? Because this was not one of those matches where the score tells you everything. If you only see Anisimova winning 4-6, 6-4, 6-2, the easy version sounds clean. A bigger hitter lost the first set, settled down, and took over. That is partly true, but it leaves out the strange part. Alex did not look lost early. She did not look like a player who had wandered into a level too high for her. For long stretches, she looked composed, clear, and dangerous. She redirected pace well. She made Anisimova hit from uncomfortable positions. She played with the kind of calm that makes people stop treating her like a nice story and start treating her like a real problem. That is why the ending hurt. When a player gets blown away from the first ball, you understand it quickly. The opponent was too strong. The matchup was bad. Move on. This was different. Alex gave the crowd just enough belief to imagine the next round. She took the opening set. She broke early in the decider. Filipino fans had every reason to think maybe this is another one of those nights. Then 6 straight games went the other way. Not one messy game. Not one bad patch that she repaired. 6 straight. Against Anisimova, that kind of run does not happen by accident. So the real question is not just why Alex lost. The sharper question is how Anisimova survived the first wave, found the weakness, and slowly turned the match into something Alex could no longer control. To see that, you have to start with the set Alex won. Because even inside her best stretch, the warning signs were already hiding. The first set was not luck. Alex earned it. She came out with the right kind of courage, not reckless, not panicked. She did not try to out-hit Anisimova from the first ball, because that is usually how you walk straight into trouble. Instead, she worked the ball with purpose. She tested Anisimova's backhand side. She changed direction when she had room. She used her movement to stretch rallies without making the match feel rushed. That is one of the small things people miss about Alex. Her game is not just running everything down. She reads space well. She absorbs pace better than most young players. When she is fresh, her timing looks clean enough that difficult balls almost seem normal. Anisimova felt that early. She had the heavier weapons, no question. But Alex was not letting her swing freely over and over. She was making her restart points. She was making her think. Then came the game that may have told the whole story before anyone knew it. Game 5 of the first set. 20 minutes, 13 deuces. One service game that almost became its own match. For Alex, holding that game was huge. It showed nerve. It showed stubbornness. It showed she could stand there while a top 10 hitter kept pressing and still refused to hand over the break. In the moment, it felt like a statement. The kind of game that makes a young player grow in public. But here is the uncomfortable part. Winning that game did not come for free. A 20-minute service game in the first set takes something from you. It takes energy from the legs. It takes bite from the shoulder. It takes focus from the next service games. Against Anisimova, that matters more than it would against a lighter hitter, because every defensive ball feels expensive. Early in the match, Alex could pay that price. She had adrenaline. She had the crowd. She had first set belief. But tennis has a cruel way of charging you later for what you spend early. That is why the first set is tricky to read. On the surface, it proves Alex was good enough to hurt Anisimova. That part is real. She won the set because she played bold, clean tennis under pressure. Underneath that win, another story was forming. The match was getting heavier. And that question matters even more when you remember what Alex brought into this match before the first ball was even struck. She was not walking into Cincinnati fresh. She was walking in with miles on her legs. 8 tough matches in 12 days, stretching from Toronto into Cincinnati, is the kind of number that sounds impressive when you say it quickly. It makes a player look fearless. It makes the summer feel bigger. Fans see it and think, look how much she is winning. Look how often she is showing up. Look how fast this is moving. The body hears that number differently. The body hears recovery time disappearing. It hears treatment, tape, travel, short nights, and another match waiting before the soreness has fully left. That is already dangerous. Put Anisimova across the net, and it becomes a different kind of problem. Because Anisimova is not the type of opponent who lets you hide tired legs. Her ball comes heavy. It comes early. It pushes you back before you can settle your feet. When your legs are fresh, maybe you absorb it, redirect it, and make her hit from awkward positions. Alex did that in the first set. As the match got longer, the small signs started to matter. The taping on the shoulder, the taping on the thigh. the taping around the elbow. None of that means a player cannot compete. Tennis players play through things all the time. But it tells you the body is being managed. It tells you this was not a clean slate. And when you are already carrying that kind of wear, a 20-minute service game does not just vanish from the system. It stays with you. Fatigue does not always arrive like a dramatic scene. Sometimes it shows up in half a step. A ball that was reachable in the first set becomes a stretched defensive reply in the second. A recovery step that used to be sharp comes a little late. A serve that needs full commitment starts losing its margin. That is when the match changes without announcing itself. By the back half of the second set, Alex was still fighting. The effort was there. The focus was there. She was still trying to make points complicated for Anisimova, but fighting is not the same as moving freely. At 4-3 in the second set, Anisimova broke. That was the moment the comeback stopped feeling theoretical. Until then, Alex had already shown she could recover from pressure. She had already shown she could survive stressful games. So even when Anisimova pushed, there was still a feeling that Alex might answer again. This time, she did not. And you could feel the match tilt, not because Alex looked scared, not because she stopped caring. It was more subtle. Anisimova's pressure was starting to land on a body that had already spent too much. Wide balls became more punishing. Longer points became more costly. Service games became more uncomfortable. That break to 4-3 was not just one game. It was a message. Anisimova had found a way to make the match repeat itself until Alex had to keep proving she could survive. In the first set, Alex had the answer. In the second set, the answer came slower. Then Anisimova held, closed the set 6-4, and the emotional balance changed. The first set told Alex, you can hurt her. The second set told Anisimova, you can wait her out. That is a very different kind of confidence. And once a top 10 big hitter starts believing she can extend the match and keep you under pressure, the court begins to feel smaller. Less room to breathe. Less room to play loose. Less room to make a normal mistake and move on. Then Anisimova found the most damaging place to press. The serve. That was the quiet alarm bell. No aces. 7 double faults. 5 service breaks conceded. Against Anisimova, that is a dangerous equation. Your serve does not have to be perfect, but it has to give you some protection. A few clean starts. A few points where you are not defending immediately. A few moments where the pressure flips to the other side of the net. Alex did not get enough of those. And when the serve does not protect you, every hold becomes work. That is hard in any match. It becomes much harder when you are tired, taped up, and facing someone who can punish a second serve if it lands even a little short. Anisimova did not need a wide-open door. She needed a crack, a second serve she could step into, a shorter ball after the return. One point where Alex had to defend from the first shot instead of building forward. Once Anisimova got those looks more often, the tone changed. This is why the serve issue mattered so much. It connected everything. The physical wear made the serve harder to protect. The serve pressure gave Anisimova more chances to attack, and those attacking chances made Alex move even more. That is how a comeback builds. Not always with one spectacular shot, not always with one dramatic collapse. Sometimes it builds through repetition. Anisimova keeps asking the same question. Can you hold again? Can you protect the second serve again? Can you recover wide again? Can you play another physical point after the last one already hurt? In the first set, Alex said yes enough times to take it. In the second set, the yes started coming with more strain. By the third set, even after Alex broke early and led 2-love, the question was still there. Could she hold the lead with that serve, on those legs, against that kind of power? That is why the 2-love lead in the decider is so painful. On the scoreboard, it looked like a reset. It looked like Alex had found one more push. Everyone watching had a reason to think, okay, she is still here. But Anisimova did not treat that break like the end of the match. She treated it like one more problem to solve. And once she got the match back to level, she did not just survive. She started swinging like the bigger hitter she is. This is where Anisimova deserves real credit. She did not panic after losing the first set. She did not rush the comeback just because the crowd had a reason to believe in Alex. She stayed close enough, long enough, for her weapons to start mattering more. That is what dangerous big hitters do. They can look uncomfortable early. They can miss. They can seem like they are fighting the match instead of controlling it. But if they stay in range, there is always the danger that the timing suddenly clicks. And when it clicks, the ball starts coming through the court differently. For Alex, that was the problem. In the first set, she managed Anisimova's power well. She used her clean timing, her court sense, and her legs to keep the rallies from becoming too predictable. She pressed into Anisimova's backhand side. She redirected when she had space. She made Anisimova hit one more ball. That plan was smart. It was also demanding. Against a player ranked around world number 10, one good plan can win you a set, but it rarely carries you through an entire match by itself. At some point, the opponent adjusts. The pace gets heavier. The same rally pattern that worked earlier starts giving the bigger hitter too much rhythm. And Anisimova found rhythm from both sides. 36 winners, 18 from the forehand, 18 from the backhand. That number says a lot, because it was not just one wing catching fire. She was hurting Alex from both corners. Once that happens, the court becomes hard to manage. You cannot simply shade one side. You cannot sit on one pattern. You cannot count on the same safe ball to get you out of trouble. Alex finished with 16 winners, which tells the other half of the story. She had quality. She had moments. She had enough offense to make the first set real. But Anisimova's late match weight was different. More direct, more punishing, less forgiving. And this is where Alex needed a stronger second plan. Not because her first plan was wrong. It gave her the first set. It put her up early in the third. It made Anisimova work for the match. But when a big hitter starts planting her feet and swinging freely, you have to keep changing the picture. A drop shot here, a quicker move forward, a higher, slower ball to break timing, something that makes the hitter stop seeing the same comfortable strike zone. Alex tried to compete through the storm. That is part of why Anisimova called her such a fighter afterward. But fighting through power is not always enough when your legs are already heavy and your serve is under attack. That is the cruel thing about this matchup. Alex had the heart for it. The match asked for legs, serve, and variety all at the same time. From there, 6 straight games went to the American. That run is the part people will remember, because it looks brutal on paper. 2-love became 2-6. A possible upset became a comeback win. A match that felt alive for Alex ended with Anisimova looking stronger, calmer, and more complete. The meaning of that run is bigger than the score. It exposed the 3 things that had been building all night: the physical toll, the serve pressure, and the lack of enough variation once Anisimova's power fully locked in. None of those problems alone explains everything. Together, they explain almost all of it. That is how the comeback happened. Not magically, not because Alex suddenly forgot who she was. Anisimova survived the first punch, kept attacking the open door, and slowly turned the match into a physical fight Alex could not sustain. And still, this should not be read as a hopeless loss. Actually, it might be one of the clearest lessons Alex could get before New York. Because if you are her team, the checklist is right there. Protect the body, manage the schedule smarter, sharpen the serve so service games do not become survival games. And against big hitters, build more ways to interrupt rhythm before the match becomes a power contest. The good news is that none of that requires Alex to become a different player. She already has the clean ball striking. She already has the movement. She already has the fight. Anisimova herself recognized that after the match, calling her a great player and such a fighter. That kind of praise matters more when it comes from someone who had to come from behind to beat you. So yes, Cincinnati hurt. Alex won the first set. She led in the third. She had the match close enough to make the loss sting. But maybe this exit is also a blessing in disguise. Instead of dragging a tired body deeper into Cincinnati, she now gets around 10 days to recover before the US Open main draw, from August 31st to September 13th. And that is where this story turns forward. Cincinnati showed Alex exactly what the next level demands. Not just one great set, not just one brave response. The next step is being able to protect a lead when the opponent adjusts, when the legs get heavy, when the serve gets tested, and when a top 10 hitter starts swinging freely. If you watch this match, where did you feel Anisimova's comeback really started? Was it the 20-minute game in the first set, the break at 4-3 in the second, or the 6-game run in the third? Because for Alex, the answer may shape everything she does before New York.